Hi, this is Gayana Torresyan. We're talking about the first chapter in the Missouri Group textbook for journalism. So we begin by asking, what does it mean to be a journalist? The role of journalism in this day and age has been changing, and it will further change as we go forward with technology and the various ways we communicate. Going back to the basics of journalism, it depends on the definition of news. News is something that newspaper, television, radio, and nowadays internet news service editors and contributors and reporters define. News has to be new, right? So everything that affects people, everything that presents interest, entertains, but done in a timely manner that can turn into a news item. So the basic criteria of newsworthiness, in addition to who, what, when, where, why, and how, the five H's and the W: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Five H's, one W. We look at the criteria for newsworthiness. Any story, any event, any happening may become news, may be presented as news if it has impact on the audience, if it contains some kind of conflict or controversy, if it contains some sort of novelty, if there are prominent people at play or prominent organizations at play or prominent issues at play, if there is proximity to the audience, something happening in our backyard, something happening in our community. For example, 2 days into the fall 2020 semester, SUNY Oneonta has 5 more cases of COVID-19 on campus, in addition to the 2 existing ones. That is proximity. It's close. Does it affect Hartwick College students? Yes, it does, because it's very close. It's half a mile away. And it has to be timely. We can say the news broke yesterday that 5 more cases of COVID-19 have been tested positive on the SUNY Oneonta campus, and that is timeliness. A week from now, the numbers will be different, hopefully better. A week from now, we will have a solution, but right now, that's the breaking news. So, what is in the news today? You can try and check the news sources, internet, online magazines and newspapers, the Daily Star. You can listen to radio, NPR, and other channels, the BBC. You can listen to commercial radio that has sometimes inserts of local news in 5 or 3 minutes. To be a reporter working for any news organization, and nowadays we can say that those organizations are operating on multiple platforms, we need a few good qualities. Persistence. We need to be asking questions all the time and trying to find out the answers from the sources, not from our own assumptions. Confronting editors about unfair treatment of topics, not putting something on a priority list when we feel it needs to be prioritized. Fairness, knowledge, enterprising, courage, and compassion. These are some qualities of good news workers. So today we're also dealing with a new type of audience. Not only the platforms have merged and conglomerated and converged, but we deal with audiences who are more news savvy, media savvy, and in many cases those audience members contribute back to the news circle. There are eyewitness news, there are news created by regular ordinary citizens, ordinary people, posting those items on social media and other places where a broad audience can see them. So, and by them I mean the news items. So the new audience, this in this day and age, is made up of a little bit more female than male audience members. just about 51% at the last check. 1/3 of those are young adults from 18 to 34 years of age. 25% of those audience members are ethnic minorities and immigrants. 21%, which is about 1/5, are grown-ups over 50, and 15% are children between 5 and 17 years of age. So the new newspapers nowadays, they have to be much more attractive in order to capture audiences' attentions in competition with other sources such as social media, internet media. So the new publications need to be colorful, and it's no coincidence that our local newspaper, the Daily Star, it exists online, and it actually includes a lot of pictures, a lot of graphics. State Times, the Oneonta newspaper, has become colored lately, has included a lot of color, whereas before, when I first started working on campus, it was only black and white. And so graphics, charts, and references are densely layering the information, giving you different aspects to view, to experience, and sometimes in some news publications you also have an auditory element. You have audio included. In many cases, when video is available, there is video, and of course we know there are links from one medium to another. From a newspaper you can be linked to a TV or radio channel, but usually those organizations stay within their own limits, and within one ownership. If you have Fox outlets, Fox will be sharing with other Fox organizations. The new kinds of media must also have the feedback loop, telling audience members how to get involved. So very often under a newspaper article, you'll see a link to a place where people can chat, readers can chat, and share their views on the given topic. So the challenge for today's news is to show how it applies to readers. Relevance is a big deal. It's a big issue because we all like to be on social media, but not everything on social media affects our lives. Sometimes it's just generic interest. And that's where conflict or controversy comes to play. Anything that contains conflict, it's like competition, it turns into like something like a sports game, and we like to follow no matter how little it impacts our lives. So relevance is another important aspect of news. Whatever is relevant, that is news. Something that is irrelevant, unless it is extremely curious, novel, unusual, it cannot be considered news because it does not impact the readers or the audience members. And news must include the many faces of society. They need to contain diversity, because in today's society the audiences are comprised of many different groups, and if a publication wants to reach out to those groups, they need to be inclusive and represent them fairly and not silence their voices. So we'll talk a little more about that, inclusivity and ethics. But branching off towards public or civic journalism, the goal of journalism is to, first of all, is to check on the powers, check on authorities. Whoever is the elected officials, no matter how we feel about their political party or their platform, we need to be the test, the check. We need to be the surveillance. We need to be the critic of powers, so that we keep authorities in check for the public. So civic journalism is based on the thought that democracy will work better if we perform our job well. So we have a responsibility about ensuring that voices of citizens are heard proportionately, in a balanced manner, fairly, no one is silenced, and everyone has a chance to speak up and be heard. So civic journalists believe that public life is possible. A good, smoothly working society is possible. Traditional journalists believe that their jobs included checking on the authorities, but also sort of wishing that public life worked, whereas public or civic journalists are more passionate and they're involved in advocacy rather than just wishing. So civic journalists believe that something has to change in the practice of journalism nowadays, especially in the 21st century when we hear a lot of criticism against the media. The news media are often called fake news, and our job in this class will be to differentiate between true news, reality as reflected in media, and things that are just created for sensational value or to twist the public opinion. We will pick up from here. This was chapter 1, and I suggest you read the textbook very closely because it does have a lot of examples and good thoughts for you. Until next time.